Um, so as you know, as shared earlier, today we are going to cover some of the coolest formulas in Excel, and also we are going to create a dynamic table. I wouldn't say it's a dynamic table as such. It's more of a card kind of a thing, wherein it we'll understand how do we create drop downs and how do we link that to a something like a scorecard. So that's the plan for today. We have VLOOKUP, we have index and match, VLOOKUP match, and XLOOKUP as the main formulas that will be covered today. We'll go one by one. We'll pick few more examples. We'll pick you know we'll pick basically as many as examples until we get this going. Right. Without further ado, let me share my screen. Um, if you guys are able to see my screen, could I get a thumbs up or something in the chat? Could somebody come confirm if you're able to see my screen? Awesome. Thanks, Nilesh. Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, everyone. Awesome. Okay. So like all of the trainings, I've basically created a hypothetical table over here, and then all the names names that are populated over here are from Copilot. None of all this is fictitious data, so not to worry about somebody's personal data being shared over here. So just to give a bit of overview on how we look up index match and XLOOKUP works. So basically, you need to have two tables with with primary key which is available in both the tables. Say suppose in here we have student ID. In case of sales, it could be sales order ID, or in case of HR data, it could be employee ID or somebody's email ID, which cannot be used by somebody else. Basically it has to be a unique one. And unique student ID is unique. That is the unique ID for everyone, right? So I've used student ID over here, and I've picked few names, basically 15 names over here, and then I've picked their marks and then totaled it. So this is the base data that we have. So this, with using this table, we are going to make sure that we'll go through the different topics that we have for today, and then see how do we make sure that basically we get the data using this formula in the different table. So like you see over here, I have about seven different tabs open. I mean, seven different pages created, one for each formula and one for and one for the table. So in each of this pages, I have a table that kind of asks for us to pull information from this base table. So just to give a bit of recap, so there has to be two different tables, and two different tables should have one unique key in which is available in both the table. Okay. So the first one is VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is something that all of us have heard. All of us have all of us have seen using it. All of us have all of us have been basically I think in couple of training session earlier, people were asking about give an overview on VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP is something that kind of holds a maximum usage in Excel as per some study. But yeah, it's fairly a simple formula. So what I've done is, if you remember what I said, so I have student ID over here as a unique key, and I have the student ID over here as unique key. So which is basically unique and unique in both the tables. I mean, or basically a primary key that is available in both the tables. So what we're going to do is, using VLOOKUP, we are going to bring the names against these student IDs. So 30614, it could be it's Rihanna Hodges. So we'll get her name over here. So how do we go about it? First things first, we start with an equals, type the formula VLOOKUP. Okay. And then understand the arguments over here. There are four arguments over here: lookup value, table array, column index number, range lookup. Okay. So lookup value is nothing but the value that you want to reference. Say in here, we want the student ID, basically in the student ID 30614, to be looked up in the array over here. Okay. array is nothing but the area of information that you are, that you are basically, pulling the information from in here. So I'm going to select whole of A till B. Okay. So just remember, I'm not selected. I'm not selected only the table. I'm selecting the entire row, entire row over here, so that even if even if you move the formula around, it wouldn't change. The number of rows won't change. So I've selected A to B, and then again, if you continue to read the argument, the next is column index number. So column index number is the number at which your information comes. So in here, student ID is the first column, names is the second column, and names is something that we are trying to pull. So basically this becomes 2. We have a small data set. It is easier to understand. It's number 2, right? But say suppose you have a larger data set where you have about, maybe 100 200 columns of information. In such cases, what you can do is, once you select the row, once you select the columns, you see a row and column difference over there. It says 2C. Use that number. Okay. So let's put 2, and then, so we'll use 0 as the match, and then let's press enter. So what I've done, this is my lookup value, this is my array, this is the column number that I'm looking at, and this is the exact match, or the part, appropriate, approximate match rather. Okay. So Rihanna hedges it was, and Rihanna hedges it is. Okay. And to drag this formula, there are different ways. One, you can just hover your cursor over here and double click. That's one way. Or you can drag the formula until last. That's another way. If not, you can select the whole table, and then just press Control D. The formula gets populated everywhere. All right. So we have another ask over here. The ask was not just to pull the names. The ask is also to pull the number of marks that these guys have scored in physics. So let's follow the same thing. Let's do a VLOOKUP again, and then my lookup value is student ID, and I'll go to base table. And if you see, earlier we had put 2, now it is 3, because it says 3C, comma 3, comma 0. All right. So lookup value, array, the column number, and the exact match. Let's press enter, and then there you go. The marks came in. So if you want to double confirm, so it was 30614 84, 30614 84. All right. And so again, you can basically, drag the formula, or you can use Control D, and then populate the whole thing. Okay. This is with regards to VLOOKUP. And then next we have index and match. Okay. So index and match, these are like, as a single force might not be that very useful. But then when you start combining both index and match, it becomes truly a powerful formula. So basically, it would be a nested formula. So before understanding a nested formula, we need to understand what each of these do, right? So let's understand what index and match does, and then we'll combine both index and match and understand index and match as a nested formula, right? So you see, there's something called 1 over here, right? There's position number. So let's do this. Okay. Um let's put index. So the array that we want to look at is this. Okay, let's lock this. Okay, locking is F4, and then let's go to index, and then this is my row number. Okay. So what this did was, it basically tells you in the, in in the array that you have selected. This is the array that I had selected. So in the first place, there's 30614. That's what it does. Say if you want to see what comes in 13th position, okay, I'll put 13, or maybe no, let's change it to names instead of numbers. uh, Names in column B. So let me column B over here. Okay, so if you see, this 13, we basically selected from here. So the 13th one is this. Okay, yeah, 13th one is glutat monstral. So basically what it does is, based on a number, it gives you a value for that particular line. So if you change it to 5, okay, so rose fry is what we got. And then if you see over here, rose fry is what is here. Like I said, index and match as individual formulas might not be that real, that will be helpful. But then as a combination, as an asset formula, those are really strong, and you might even stop using VLOOKUP if you understand how to use index and match. And then we'll see about that in a couple of minutes time. Okay, so that's how we use index. And then if you go to match, match does the other way around. So here we put we put a number, and then based on the number, we get a name over here. So match does the other way around. So we put a name, and then we get a number over here. Okay, let's understand how match works. Okay, so the lookup value for me over here is this. Okay, so instead of looking at the rows, let me look at columns, and let me lock it again. And then what do I want? Do I want a less than match, greater than match, or exact match? I want an exact match. So let me put 0 over here, and then close. Okay, so now if you look at this, so chemistry is in the 4th column. Okay, and that's what I get over here in the match, in the position number. Okay, so if we change it to physics, physics was in what? Physics was in 3rd position, and that's what we get over here. Okay, let's change it again. Let's make it as names. So it became 2. So now now if you kind of understand, so if you go back to VLOOKUP and VLOOKUP and see, we were putting we were putting a number over here, 3, 2, and all that, right? So with with if you basically use match, then you don't have to put this number manually. And basically when we go to VLOOKUP and match, this thing, we'll understand how that works out. And like I kept saying, both index and match is as an individual formula, they're not that powerful. But then when they come as a force, that's when we kind of realize the true value of index and match. Okay, so what I have over here, if you go to VLOOKUP, we are pulling names and name and physics, name and marks of physics in VLOOKUP. Okay, we can do the same thing over here, but in terms of effort that you put, you basically end up putting 4 different VLOOKUPs to get 4 different information over here. What index and match does is, without putting so much of effort, with one single formula, you can basically get everything everything going. Okay, so how do we do it? So first things first, let's start with an equals. Okay, start with index. Okay, so array is basically the information area that you're looking for. Okay, the whole information area. Leave the column header alone. Start from the area where the information is available. So here the column is starting from row number 2 until column number, basically 15R into 7C. So 15th row till 7th column. All right, and now let's lock it, because once you drag a formula, it kind of gets changed, changed if you don't lock it. Okay, so now again, now using this index, we want to reference it to a row number. Okay, For that, let's use match. Okay. So my lookup value in here, if you come to index and match, my lookup value is this. Okay. And again, we need to lock it. So this is partial lock. So what this does is when you drag the formula, you know, it only changes the number. It does not change the row reference. So the row reference over here is A. It will not change. Okay. So for me, the lookup array is, let's go to base table again. So this is the lookup array. Okay. And then, and before that, we need to lock this so that the number of rows won't change. So that's one part of the formula. And so this is basically looking at the number at which this data comes. So basically, if you remember, index was giving us a number, right? Or basically, if you put a value, it was returning as a number. Okay. So now let's put another match that looks at these values. Okay. If you remember, the lookup was always on the rows, when we did VLOOKUP. But in here, you can also use, uh, column as a lookup. Okay. And now let's lock this again. Okay. And then the lookup array is, again, we'll come here and then select the columns. Okay. So if you remember, earlier we selected the rows, now we are selecting the columns. Lock it, put a 0, that's exact match, and close, and then hit enter. Okay. So this is what we wanted. So now, if you were to put, if you were to put VLOOKUP, we had to put 4 different VLOOKUPs. Now with one formula we can get all the remaining things. So if you look at Rihanna Hodges, there's 84 and there's 76 and this total of 299, which we get. Okay. And why it is superior than VLOOKUP is that, even if you include a new, you say, just for argument's sake, I'm going to create another couple of columns over here. Let's say I'll call it grand total and I'll call it percentage. Okay. So even if you do that, index and match will not be impacted. But if you do that with VLOOKUP, say we have physics over here, say, let's say I put something called, English, and let me, just put 0 in all the places so that it becomes easier for us to difference. So now if you look at over here, all of it became 0. Okay. So what is happening here is that, there is a dependency on the base table, on VLOOKUP. If the base table gets modified, then your formulas will also be impacted. But that would not happen with index and match, because you're referencing the column and the rows instead of just a number. Okay. So, let even if I pull some, put something in the place of computer science, where I have over here. So let's call it French. And let's put the same thing. Okay. And then if I go to index and match, my formula would not change, or my would not, rather, it will not be impacted, because my header has remained the same. Say if I make it as French over here. Okay. Then it pulls whatever that we had put for French over there. Right. That's how powerful it is. And then, like I said, it might not, index and match are not that really strong when it comes to, when it if when you look at them as an individual formula. But then as a force, as a combined formula, they're pretty powerful. and probably replaces VLOOKUP any day, because if at all, if you want to do multiple lookups, you would rather do in index and match rather than applying multiple VLOOKUPs and spending time on that. Okay. And there's another thing that I wanted to basically share with you guys. So say in here, yes, there is an option for you to drag the formula and then populate it everywhere. Basically you can do a control D over here, you can select this the other ray and do a control R. That does the thing that is required. However, even not no even there's something that you can do, where you can avoid that step also. Okay, for that, what you need to do is basically you need to select everything, the ray that you want to put the information in. uh, can select everything. And for some reason it's not working for me. No, it's not working. But basically, what you can do is do a control D to get the rows, to get the rows over here, and do a control R to get the columns. Okay, so that's what we do in terms of index and match. Okay, I had to teach you guys the HLOOKUP as well. Let me put it over here so that we cover it at the later point. Okay, so VLOOKUP and match does almost a similar thing like index and match, but index and match, no matter what you do, this wouldn't break. Even if you change something in the base table, it would not change. But VLOOKUP and match is not that widely used, but then an important formula, you know regardless of how often it gets used. So how do we use VLOOKUP? Again, start with equals, put the type in the formula. VLOOKUP, lookup value is the student ID over here. Okay, and the ask here is to pull names, chemistry, and advanced maths marks and total marks. Okay, so my table array is this again. What do I want to pull? I want to pull names. Okay. um let's do this. Okay, rather, let's select only the information area and lock the area again. And then if you remember, we were putting a number over here. Now we can basically automate it. Okay, so instead of putting a number, let's use match function. Okay, and now if you go to VLOOKUP and match, so this is my lookup value. Okay, and my lookup array is this. Let's lock that as well, and we need to lock this one also. And then let's close match, and then close VLOOKUP as well. Okay, that's it. Okay, now this sort of became dynamic. Earlier, say, in this column, if I change it to maths, okay, it will not change. It remains whatever is there, right? But now with VLOOKUP and match, what will happen is, based on the column name over here, it changes. Say, it's names now, right? So say suppose I make it as total, it changes. Say I make it as physics, it changes according to that. So it kind of nullifies the problem of putting a number and retaining that number forever. So it keeps changing based on the information that you put over here. Okay, so how do we drag it? So this chemistry over here, if I drag the same formula, it will come up. It is not coming up because I've not locked the formula. Again, locking is very, very important, because if you see over here, now instead of looking at Rihanna, instead of looking at A2, my column is looking at B2, where I have Rihanna Hodges, but my column array does not have that. Okay, or rather my lookup table, is looking at something else. Okay, so let's get rid of this, and then we'll come here and then lock the formula. All right, now all I have to do is do a control D and control R. So what I've done is I've looked at the lookup value and chosen my array. So instead of putting a number, I've used match formula to automate the numbering in VLOOKUP. Right. Okay. So let's look at HLOOKUP. Okay. So this is not that widely used. Let me be very honest. At least I don't use it that very often. Okay. Um, and in the cases where I use is to basically compare the column names. Say I'll call it as names over here, and if I want to identify, or rather let's call it as names, and then let's put on the percentage. Okay, say I have two different data sets, and then I want to compare the column names in both the data sets. So that's when I use it. I don't use it that very often, to be really honest. But I'll teach you, whatever I've used HLOOKUP for. Okay, so VLOOKUP is vertical lookup. HLOOKUP is horizontal lookup. Okay, that's the only difference. VLOOKUP looks at the vertical data, and HLOOKUP looks at the horizontal data. What we can do is, basically same thing. Just type in HLOOKUP, and then the lookup value remains the same. Okay. So if you remember, when we did the VLOOKUP thing, we were using a value from a row. Here we are using a value from the column. Okay, and go to base table, and again, earlier we were selecting the whole row over in the VLOOKUP formula. In here we just use the column. Okay, so what we do, we put the row index number because there's only one column. Okay, and put 0, then it returns you with whatever that is there. Okay, you can use it for different things. There's a not applicable that comes because it is not available, and that's why I use it for. Say suppose if I run multiple reports, and if I want to match columns in both the reports, I use the one that was already sent, and I use the one that is currently available. Do the lookup thing and remove whatever is not applicable. Okay, and if you want to use this for something else also, right? If you want to use this lookup differently, you can do the same thing. Put HLOOKUP, go to base table, select this information, and say, if you want to get what is there in the fifth row, or fifth column rather, or fifth row rather, sorry, fifth row. Just put 5, and then it gives you the information. Okay, so if you go to base table, this is the fifth row that we had, which was starting from here, and that's what we see in HLOOKUP as well. All right, so we have just few more things to go. Let's go to XLOOKUP. Okay, so XLOOKUP is another important formula that was introduced very recently. If you're not using Office 365, you will not be having XLOOKUP in your system, in your Excel rather. So it is available only for Office 365 users and any version that has come after that. I don't think there's any version after 365, but if there is one, it will be available there. Say suppose if you have Office 2019 or 16, you will not see XLOOKUP in there. Okay, so when you try this formula at your leisure, if you don't see if you don't see XLOOKUP, don't be alarmed. It's just that your version is not updated. All right. So XLOOKUP, and again, in the analytics world or in the Excel world, what they say is XLOOKUP is a successor for VLOOKUP. So that's what they say, and I don't see a lot many people using XLOOKUP, but then hopefully it will become famous in the coming days. Okay, so how do we use it? Again, let's start with an equals session, equals sign. Okay, see, my hand goes to VLOOKUP by default. So just type in XLOOKUP. Okay, so lookup value is this. Okay, and then again we need to understand the formulas by the arguments that we get. So in VLOOKUP we get around 4 arguments. In here we find about 6 arguments. Okay, so basically, first things first, like in HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, the first part is the first argument is lookup value, and then go to go to the base table, and then select the lookup array. Lookup array is nothing but where is your lookup value located. So we are using student ID as a lookup value, so this is where my lookup array is. Okay, and let's lock this. So based on this, what do I want to return? Okay, let's go to XLOOKUP and see what I want to return. I want to return total. Okay, so I would again come over here and then select the total and lock it. Okay, and then if not found, so there's something called if not, if error in Excel. So if not found, what is the column, what is the information that you want to put? Say let's call it not available. Okay, and there's different modes of identifying things. There's exact match, smaller item, larger item, wildcard, character match. These things basically complicate XLOOKUP, but then let's use exact match. There are other things can be used, but then my example is suitable for exact match, so let's use 0. Okay, and then um, so I'm not sure if you observed, when we do a VLOOKUP, and if there are duplicate values in it, okay, it always returns the first value. Say suppose there is student ID 123 available, or is entered thrice. It just pulls the first row of the information and ignores the next two. Okay, that's how it happens. But XLOOKUP gives you an option to look at, either at the first or at the last, and also does a ascending or descending order. Okay, so again, it's one of the coolest thing that MS has done. But it depends on how neat and how clear the data is. So since we do not have any duplicate values, let's just put one. Okay, so we've basically filled all the arguments. So the first argument is the lookup value, the next argument is lookup array, the next value is return array, and then the next is a message if not found. And match mode, how do we want to match it? Do we want to do a part match or an exact match? And the search mode, how do you want to search? Is it the first one or the last one, or the ascending order, the descending order? Okay, so we filled all the arguments, and then let's click enter. So if you see, there's 299 that is populated over here. So we, for 3614, that's what we have, 299. And then how do we drag it? We go to the end, and then select the whole array and click on Control D. And just for this, I had introduced another employee, another student ID over here, which is not available in the base table. So if you see, there is only 15, but the 16th one, 2 3 4 5 6, which is not available now, because we've put a not available message over here. it basically gives us this. Okay, gives us not available as a message. Otherwise, it will give you that hash na, that ugly looking hash na column thing. The let me show how that looks like. So it just gives you this. Okay, you wouldn't want this, if you're sending reports to somebody at the top. It should look neat, right? So if you put not available, all this not applicables will look neat over there. Okay, so that's about the you know columns, formulas that we discussed. VLOOKUP, index and match. And like I kept saying, index and match as individual formulas. That I usually feel, it's index and match under, as they shouldn't be used as single formulas. They should always be used as index formula, as does nested formulas. So we've understood index as a formula, we've understood match as a formula, and we've understood also index and match as a combination. VLOOKUP and match, HLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP. Okay, we've understood all this. And the basic thing is, you'll have to have two different tables which has the same unique key in both the which has a same primary key in both the tables. Okay, so the last part that I have for today is the dynamic table. Okay, so there are different tables, table that can be created, right? In Excel. So basically, you can select the whole thing and convert this into a table. That basically makes it all colorful, and all the formulas you know get dragged automatically. But that's not what we are trying to solve today. We'll just create a scorecard. Okay, that basically covers multiple things. Okay, so let's I'm not sure how comfortable you guys are with using drop downs. If not, drop down was something that we had not mentioned in the topics, but then we can learn today. Okay, so let's use names rather. Names is different names. Okay, so how do we create a drop down? So if you're trying with some data with you, follow along. Okay, so select the cell where you want to create drop down. Go to data, and then go to data validation. Okay, select data validation, and then it opens a pop-up. In here, select list. Okay, under the source, I want the student names. Okay, so this is what I want, and I've done this. Okay, so you see, there's in the drop down, there's every name available. Okay, or rather, I should have made it employee, student ID itself. Let's change it. So let's call it A. So now instead of looking at the names, we get the IDs over here. So to put the names, you don't have to do it every time. Just put a lookup. Okay. So the column, this is where we look, the student ID would come up. Okay. Let's go to base table. Want to put names. So we'll do a lookup, then put a 0. Okay, and then let's enter, and again it gave that ugly hashne error. So to avoid this, let's use if error. Okay, what if error does is, if error sort of replaces the error message that you get. Okay, you can put any text that you over here. It's a free text. Okay, so let's call it enter a student ID. And remember, this has to be within an inverted comma, otherwise it wouldn't work. Whatever that is there in inverted comma, that's a pretext. Otherwise, it will be treated as a part of the formula. Okay. So now that I've not put a name, put a student ID over here, it says enter valid student ID, because that's the error message, right? And then now I want the total marks. Okay, let's do a lookup again. Let's start with if error, so that we put that error message also. So go to student ID again. So this is where the student ID would be coming eventually. Go to base table. So my total is in what, the seventh column. So 7 0, and it gave me an error because my arguments are incomplete. Enter a valid student ID. Okay. Now I also want to know the percentage of these guys. So we have about how many? We have four different subjects. So let's divide the total by 400. Okay. uh, it gave me this error because there's no marks, right? There's no number to divide. So again, do the similar thing. Go to, do an if error, put a value stating that total marks not available. Okay. So what this does is, you might not require, all this text, but then it will help for the, for the first time user. Say suppose you've created a scorecard and they don't know how to use it. By looking at the error message, they'll know, what needs to be done. All right. So let's pick a student ID. Okay. Let's pick 3614, which was our first ID. Okay. um, if you see now, you know we had Rihanna Hodges 299 as a marks, and this is getting divided by 44, 400. Okay. So say suppose, I'm not sure how many of you are from, there are people from different industries, right? So, if you are from the education industry, if you want to, if you are having that, some campus selection discussion and all that. If you don't want to go to the Excel, every now and then, you can just create a formula like this, or you can create a scorecard like this and just keep changing student IDs, and also avoid a chance of, somebody else seeing somebody else's marks. So you can just keep changing the student ID over here. And even if you're a manager, right? If you're a manager and if you're having your, year-end discussion with your employees, you can create a scorecard like this. Or I'm pretty sure, the companies would have a much more efficient system than this. But then if you don't have any, this is something that you could create. Okay. Um, and you can basically add different things over here. Let's say suppose if you are calculating somebody's commission, or somebody's incentive, you can add multiple things and basically control it by the student ID. So if you look at this, it is dynamic, because with one click of a button, everything else is changing. All right. So basically, this is what I wanted to cover today. All the kinds of lookups that are available, and what we could do with the lookup. Um, and then, yeah. So basically, that's it. Were you guys not able to see my screen? Since when you guys were not able to see this? Sure, Karthik. Let me stop sharing and reshare my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen now. Okay. All right. Okay. So let me share the window itself, rather, entire screen. Okay, now you should be able to see it. Okay, let me do a drop down thing and then do an index match, because index match takes little time. Okay. So, like I said, this was something that was not visible. Okay, let's recreate it. Uh, you can still see my screen. Okay. So this is how we create drop down. So you select the cell where you want to create the drop down, go to data, and then go to click on data validation. And then in this, in the pop-up, select list. Okay. And when you go to the source, you can type in information over here. You can basically type a comma b comma c. Even this would come. Okay. If you just come over here, it will give you a b c. The comma separates things. Okay, here we want to, basically, you can use, you can use multiple things over here. So here, since we have the student ID, click on this up arrow button, go to base table, and select the row where the information is residing. Okay, click enter, click OK, and there you go. Your, you know, the student IDs are popping up as drop downs. Hope that was useful. Somebody was asking about index and match. Do I still need to do index and match? Who are asked index and match? Send a yes now. Uma, you will need to use ifs for that. For to get such kind of range. I think we've covered it in one of the earlier sessions. Probably can take a look at that. I do not have the right data set for that. Hey Karthik, yeah, let's do it. Okay, index and match. Let's do it for chemistry. Okay, so Karthik, what we do is, we go to index. So your array is where the information is residing. So that's the first part. Okay, so we fill in arguments only till column number. So ignore whatever is there next to that. So first we'll fill the array. Okay, so array is where my information is residing. So this is where my information is residing. So I'll select it and then lock it. Okay, because if you drag the formula, the rows also will get changed. Okay, then to get the row number. Okay, uh, you- so let's just do this with numbers and 2 3. Okay, so now if you see, 2 is what? 2 is Rihanna Hodges. No, 2 is Caitlin. Okay, Colton rather. Okay, and 3 is physics. So this is the information that you're getting there. This information. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to automate this 2 and 3. So if you remember index and match as a single formula, we were they it was working on positions, right? So if we automate the position formula, then it becomes more dynamic. Okay, let's use match. And for us, the first lookup is this. Let's lock it, partial lock rather. Okay, and then sorry, let's partially lock this and then use a comma, and then select the lookup array. So for you, the lookup value is the student ID now. So go to base table and select the array where the student ID is residing. Okay, and then lock the formula, put 0 and close. So that gave us the row number. Now what do we want? We want the column number as well. So if you go to if you do a match again, so if you remember what match did was based on the text, it was returning as the numbers, right? So we are using match for the same thing over here. So let's go to index and match column and then I want chemistry. So this particular area to be my my lookup value. So let's partially log this again. Okay, and the lookup array is the base table. So here the lookup array would be the column headers. Let's completely log this and click 0 and close. That should give you what you were looking for. So Rihanna Hodges, you go to base table, her chemistry marks was 79, and that's what we are getting. And just drag the formula. That was useful. Nilesh, so there's two different types of logs basically. One the full log, other one is partial log. Before that, Suraj, we just press F4 if your keyboard is, if your keyboard has F4 as a, if your keyboard is assigned to different function, then you might have to use, probably function F4. Okay, let's getting back to your question. There is partial log and there is full log. Full log basically, logs the whole array or the whole data set. Partial log changes, say suppose if you do, if you press twice, then only the column number changes. If you press thrice, then only the row number changes. So when we explain it, it is kind of confusing. But if you try one of these formulas in index and match, it should work properly. Uh, so what formula we need to use? We look up when from other sheet that. Vijay, if there's only one lookup value, right? You could use VLOOKUP. If you have multiple value to be looked up, then index and match is something that you could use. Yeah, Uday. That's totally true. Yeah, the best way to learn it is to practice and break things. And you cannot break Excel, so don't worry. You can basically try most of these things. Okay. Uh, I don't see lot many questions. Um, I think we have 4 more minutes. I don't see a flurry of questions that are coming in. Either that means either I've done a really good job or I've confused you guys. I'll stick to the first one. Niharika, yeah, there's no way that that you can, that you'll never not know the columns near number. When you drag the formula and we look up, up at the top, it just follows a message kind of a, right, message kind of a pop up where it says you which column number it is. Or else, if you're not sure of what column it is, I would probably use VLOOKUP and match. Thank you. So let's end it then. So we have 3 more minutes on a middle of the week. So let's I'll you guys can try this. I think there's a YouTube site where this where the video gets uploaded. You can you can see the video and then and then follow along. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a good one over there. Bye bye.